Hi everyone, welcome back to the podcast. It's number 2 of 2021 and it's another French person. Benjamin doesn't actually know that this is the 2nd of 2021, so I've just dropped that on him. He also doesn't know that he's the second French person I'm speaking to in 2021. And once again, je ne vais pas parler en français, mais je vais parler en anglais avec lui because then most people can understand me, because most people who know me and will listen to this are going to speak in English. So I'm going to speak in English, not in French. Not that I could actually do this in French, but I also spoke to Carmina in the last episode in English as well. So Benjamin is currently in Switzerland and he is an awesome guy who you're going to get to know, but I'm going to let him introduce himself first. So Benjamin, where are you at? What are you doing in the world at the moment? And tell us a bit about yourself.
Sure. First of all, Nick, I am normally I would start saying I'm very happy to be on this podcast, but now I learned that I am the second person, and then I'm the second French, and you won't even speak French to me. You've just ruined it for me. So.
Well, we could speak French, but I don't know. It's a bit left field for where I'm heading with the podcast.
For your audience, it's okay. Plus, in French, I am quite demotivational, so so there's no problem. We'll do it in English. No, actually, I'm joking. Of course, I'm very happy to be on your podcast, Nick, and very flattered. Also, a little bit, nervous. You've had quite a lot of winners on this podcast, and I have a massive imposter syndrome, so... I'm wondering why am I doing on this podcast, but we'll discuss that, I guess. So I'm based in Zurich. I am originally from France, and at the moment I do different things. So I do comedy. There's not a lot of comedy going on in 2021. We've just went into another lockdown in Switzerland. So now there's no live shows until the end of February at least, but I do virtual shows for companies, and also there's like virtual shows all around the world, for the general public. But at the moment, we do quite a few corporate work, and I'm also a speaker, so on the speaker and trainer and moderator. So. Based in Switzerland. Now the beauty of this whole lockdown is that we can do it everywhere. So the geography is no longer the limit. So that's...
Geography is no longer the limit, but it's not. I think that's one of the things I want to talk to you about. Actually, it's not quite the same doing it online, and that's a pretty steep learning curve, especially comedy. I actually follow a few comedians. One of which is very famous, Joe Rogan. I've listened to his podcast a lot, and he's a comedian.
Yeah.
And listening to him and his friends who are comedians talk about doing online shows, it's a huge challenge, and that's something you've taken on, actually, right? So
yeah.
Why don't we start with that? Why don't we?
Sure,
let's
do that. Yeah.
Experience.
Oh, that's yours. A good win. That's a good win. We can talk about.
Yeah, go for it.
There you go. You're gonna cure me from my imposter syndrome, Nick.
I hope so.
So when the lockdown was announced in last March 2020 in Switzerland, I didn't want to give up on doing comedy, and I also don't know. So Nick, we are former colleagues, and so it's fair to say that the company we used to work for went into. Can we swear in this podcast?
Of course you can swear.
Okay,
yeah.
Went into a shit
sorry
show.
for anyone who gets offended by the swearing. Let's put it that way.
so it was a real shit show. And one of my tasks at work was actually to move all the learning and all the studies of our students online. And this is something that we did pretty quick, within 48 hours, or whenever it was needed. We could ensure continuity of service without people lost maximum 24 hours of classes. And then I thought, okay, if I can do this. If I can put 40 schools online, when I say sorry, it's we, because definitely didn't do it on my own. But if we can put 40 schools online, then I can put a comedy show online. And comedy was something that I was doing at the side of my work, that I had been doing for 4 years at this point. And started to do it a bit more professionally, started to get actual bookings and live corporate shows and things like that. and I thought, okay, let's do it. And let's do a comedy show online. And so I got in touch with my friend here, Chris Darwa, and kind of sold him on the concept. And in the beginning, I didn't want to complicate it too much because there was such intensity going on at work. I was like, I don't have time to spend, such a huge amount of time working on this. So let's just do a Zoom call and like invite comedians from all over the world, from Zurich, but people that we know in the US and the UK. And then thank God there were Chris and then this other guy called Harry who kind of had a bit of a vision that no, we have to do a bit more than a Zoom call. But if anything, actually in the beginning, I kind of slowed things down a bit, So I was like, yeah, well, of course it's going to not be good because we're not good performers for the camera. We're used to speak to an audience on stage and we don't know, but we're going to learn. But so I didn't really want to go, beyond. And but thank God, so through Harry, we had like kind of like a show identity. He found out the streaming service OBS, and he set it up so that it kind of looked like a, semi-professional, at least the transitions between the comics and the credits and stuff. And the first show was got kind of a buzz because we got into like a famous Zurich newsletter, which is called Ron Orp. I don't know if you were following that in Lucerne when you lived there, but it's like a newsletter of things that are happening in Zurich, and they mentioned us. They said, all right, well, these guys are gonna try to do a comedy show online. By their own admittance, they don't know what it's going to be like. So we had a bit of a buzz, and then on Facebook, like especially Switzerland-based were the first one. And so we had 400 live viewers on the first stream.
Wow.
And it felt amazing, but man, that was a bad show, I can tell you. The show was 2 hours long, like nobody knew what they were doing. And kind of like technical problems, orama, like, so some people enjoy that, but most people don't have the patience to look at people trying things out, right? So already second show we had 200, and then the show after 50, and then so it just went on, it just dwindled. And so, so then we kind of had a meeting and asked ourselves, like, okay, like, so what, what's going to be, what concept of a show should we offer? And so we kind of discussed, and we had different ideas. And then somebody said, okay, well, let's try, if we have, there were 4 people at this meeting and kind of like 4 different ideas of what it could be. And then it was like, okay, well, let's do 4 concepts of the show, and we'll try them one by one and see what works best. And so we experimented with, one was just a sketch show, a bit like Saturday Night Live. So there were some recorded sketches and some live sketches. I wanted to have like a panel show where we have like, we were discussing with other comedians on stuff that was happening, and panel show. yeah. Basically, we did a talk show and we did an award show, and then in the end, the final product was kind of like a mix of everything. So it was a talk show, but with some recorded sketches and some discussion. So we had like a mix. So, and actually in the end, we had a good product, and people so there were 15 people left at that point. But they were hardcore fans, man. It was always the same people, and they were just loving what we were doing. And I would say, like, I didn't know all of them, so they were not all of our friends, like there were actually some fans who are like, yeah, like, let's see what they do. And I'm forever grateful for those 15 people who kept showing up. And jokingly, I call them, they're the true heroes of the pandemic. because they sat through 12 episodes.
12. Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah, it was weekly. It was 3 months,
That's
and then
awesome.
and then after that, the lockdown stopped, and we resumed live shows.
Did
I
they
mean,
come to the
didn't.
live show?
Yeah. So then
Those
I met,
15. I hope you called them out in the live show.
Well, no, I realized after, they were like, yeah, because I was also during the whole pandemic, I was doing a character called Antoine Robin. He's the French Tony Robbins,
Okay.
and he's a demotivational speaker, and there's this girl she calls me only Antoine, like she she doesn't know me as anything else. I'm just Antoine. But yeah, and so it was kind of, and honestly, after the live show started, and then it was kind of hard to get people motivated because it's quite a big production, like it requires a lot of work every week, and we all had jobs on the doing that, and then it was like like it's so much more immediate with live shows. You write something, you don't need to have any tech. You just show up, you do your 5 minutes, 1 minute works, 2 minute works, whatever. You keep that, like it's just so much easier. And there's no, okay, if it didn't work, screw it. But when it's recorded, like, or it's not even recorded, when it's streaming, it's like live TV, you don't really have like you have to go straight away with your best, like with a script that you feel super confident with. You've had no really audience feedback, so then we had a process between us to try. We were working with our feedback and whatever we liked, and then you have to, when you perform it live, you have to own it.
Yeah.
Like, because I was kind of used to half own it, to just see like, oh, okay, and then if the audience would respond, I would like really own it. But if they wouldn't, I would be like, you're right, this is shit, which I shouldn't do. Like this is still a sign that with only 4 years in comedy, you're still working on your skills.
Yeah.
But definitely, like, that taught me to own my stuff a bit more. And then, but I kind of thought, okay, like, was this wasted effort? Like, okay, we learned a bit to do streaming, and we learned online presence, and I kind of learned through that it's kind of, you cannot have a stand-up comedy show and just stream it and do it on Zoom or whatever, because the guy talking with a microphone to a camera, in the end, without any edits and stuff, like, people zone out, and the guy Harry that I was mentioning, he was saying that from the beginning. And I should have listened to him. I didn't.
Well,
if you're listening,
right?
You're right in the end, Harry. But so we kind of learned that okay, you need to change every 3 to 5 minutes maximum. You need to change what you're doing. It needs to be a skit, a discussion, even you can do a stand-up performance, but then no more than 3 minutes. So that monologue, that kind of stuff, like, just very dynamic. And then, but even within those, we still have like lots to learn to make it more visually appealing for just even those 3-4 minutes. But anyway, we got to like a point that was we were happy with, and like we're like, okay, so now we figured like a way to entertain an audience for half an hour on a stream. And and then something crazy happened. Somebody who was watching the online shows, like, he didn't watch all the episodes, but he was also watching me live, so he knew my comedy, and he knew that his former company was looking for somebody to do like a virtual Christmas show. And he recommended me to the person, like, he was not even working there anymore, but he recommended me. He said, this guy, he's been doing streaming during the whole pandemic. I know his humor. He's worked in the corporate world for 12 years. He understands it. Like he knows where the line is, and like how to flirt with the line. And and in the end was so we got our first client doing a Christmas show for them. Then second client came in out of nowhere. so the week after we did another. So we did 2 Christmas parties in December, and now we've just we've just actually today we just agreed on a deal with another company.
Oh no.
Famous IT firm in Zurich. I don't know if I can name it. It's a firm that controls the world. Okay, and so. So not for the whole firm, right? For like a team within that firm, but they just finished with a project and they're looking for like a nice way to put a end of project celebration. And again, somebody in that team recommended me because she's been coming to my shows, so and I know her, and but she was watching my streams, and then she had told some people, and then her boss had watched the streams. And it was like, oh, it's the guy, it's Ben from the streams, and then the deal was accepted, and we were in competition with like established comedy companies in Zurich, and I mean, that's so awesome. It's crazy. You never know who's paying attention to what you're doing, even when you're screwing it up, basically.
Well, I mean, what I want to sort of give you some credit here, because I think I love comedy, and we both know a guy called David Nihil, who will be the 100th episode guest. He's promised me. Well, he didn't actually promise, but now I've made it a thing that he's now promised me. But basically, he'll come on here at some point. But he's written a book on comedy. Do You Talk Funny? Yeah. And he talked about going and doing stand-up comedy and open mics for like a year so that he would get comfortable doing public speaking, and he used it to access that, and his book's all about that. Great guy, and it inspired me to do it as well, because I was like, well, I love public speaking, I love standing up in front of crowds, I love the adrenaline buzz is actually where I get the kick, I think, and I'm not shy, so I enjoy that. And I thought, well, this is a good challenge, and I did it, but I'm nowhere near, I'm a baby by comparison, but I've done it a few times now, and I think it's interesting when you talk to people about it, because a lot of people are like, whoa, I could never do that. It's so scary, and it is scary. It's scary to get up
it's
with the
very
intent
scary.
to make people laugh, to make people actually have a physical response to your jokes that you've written. And I think what you've done is next level brave, because you've then said, well, okay, everyone says it's not the same online, because it isn't, because I can't see the people in front of me kind of hitting when I do the punchline. I can't see that reaction instantaneously like I would in person, so it makes it extremely difficult. And I think that's good credit for you to have the guts to make that happen, and I think that's one of the things about this pandemic and the way in which the world shifted. It's innovations like that, not just in comedy, obviously, but like innovations like that where people are brave enough to say, okay, this is difficult. It's not the same as it is in person, but how do we make it work? That's the bit that people seem to stop short of. And I'm always looking for, like, you've seen, I've got this like crazy, stupid setup here. People laugh at me. I've got a teleprompter. I've got a big ring light thing. I've got soundproof. I'm just trying my best to try and work out, like, how can I step up and try to work out what is the best way forward. I bought a load of equipment which I don't use and I'm trying to sell, but it's like, I think credit to you is like learning and doing it is so cool, and it's great. You've got business out of it, so good for you.
That felt like a big win in the to have like, so now 3 clients so far with that product. That feels like a really big achievement. But there was a lot of I don't know, boldness, but in the sense that I wasn't really realizing what I was getting myself into. And a lot of it was, because the whole part of it's not like it is with live and you don't hear the reaction, and like I hadn't even thought about that, like it was 1A. I just needed to get away. I needed to have like an outlet outside of the crazy shit show that was going on at work. I just needed that. And then also I needed to, and like there was, I don't know, maybe there was a pride thing or something like, well, this is also, I think this is something that I think we've learned that. Can we name the company we worked for? I don't know, Nick.
Yeah,
what do we do?
EF Education First. Yeah, of course you can. Yeah.
That we've learned there
I've
is
got
is like
to hide, and
No, I just don't know the
hopefully some
rules of
friends
your
from-
podcast.
Hopefully, some friends from EF are listening, and if they are, hey, hi, welcome, and love you, and please listen to more podcasts,
Yes.
both mine and Bed's.
So I felt like one thing that we've definitely learned there is that you learn to take the bull by the horns, and then if you want to do something, you just screw it. I'm going for it,
Yeah.
And so there was definitely there was a bit of that, like screw it, and like we'll figure it out.
I hear you, and in fact, it is a great, I think it's a thing about EF generally. It's a very successful company, in main part because it attracts people who are a bit like that, and it's actually it's not very structured, which it has its massive flaws, of course, but at the same time, I think it's shown over 45, 50 years, something it's been going. Longer than 50 years. So I went to the 50th year, so 50 something years it's been going. That it's continue to grow and grow and grow because it's innovating, it's having people like just face challenges and work out the best way forward instead of trying to plan out every single detail and nail down every single potential risk. It assesses risk, of course, and it takes care of people, and safety is important, but it also then works out where are other business risks we can take and what can we push with to innovate or change the industry a bit and get more market share or more profit or whatever it is. So I think it's a great example, and I mean, you and I both will have seen plenty of examples where people have just had to swim, where they've been thrown in the deep end and they've just had to, and they've done it.
And so that's kind of what it was, like so. So I don't know how much credit I deserve for the courage, because I didn't know what I was getting myself into. Now, I guess once you do it once and you get the slap in the face of like performing to a lens and empty silence, there you realize, oh shit. But also, the first show, I didn't realize how bad we were because we asked for donations, and we actually got quite a lot of donations, but I think people were just like, okay, fine, like let's reward the effort, but they definitely like didn't show up after that. And so like even in the beginning, like this guy Harry was like, hey, it's really not good what we're doing. I was like, what are you talking about? Look how much money we got. But he was right.
He was right. Harry, you're right. I'm getting that message loud and clear.
Yes, Harry. It's so funny. Maybe you should have him on your podcast, because I'll tell you why. So when he learned I was doing this podcast on confidence, and actually I recorded one episode at his place because I needed to use the material and like the equipment, and he was recording his own podcast. So anyway, so he sticks around, and at the end he's like, you know what, Ben, I think you should have me on your podcast because I'll tell you something about my life. And then he said that when he was young, he would play games with his grandmother. So like they would play all sorts of board games and stuff like that. So since the age of 7, and like for years and years, and his grandmother made it happen so that he would win every time. But he didn't know, and so he came out of it thinking he's really the smartest person.
Oh dear, sounds like my 5-year-old.
and he's like, yeah, I have a podcast on confidence because obviously this is something that I've struggled with, myself, and I'm trying to explore, and I think I have at least gotten some kind of professional confidence, but then I'm like interested in like the bigger picture of confidence. And he's like, yeah, I don't understand why you do this, Ben. Like, what?
I'm so confident.
Like, it's so confident. But like, imagine if you, for years and years and years, every week, you've learned that you win at every game. Then this must affect your adult life later.
It was funny you were saying that, because I was watching a program about I don't know if you play it in France, but the pass the parcel at birthday parties. Do you play that in France? So
I guess maybe we have another name. What does it consist of?
So it's a prize is in the middle, and then you wrap it, and then you put usually like a candy or something in between, and you wrap another layer, and then you do the same, and you wrap, and it becomes a giant present that then kids sit and pass around in a circle, and then when the music stops, they get to unwrap and look inside. Peppa Pig has an episode on it, so you must check it out. No, I'm just kidding. You'll be on Peppa Pig time. But I was listening to that, and
we've graduated.
The funny thing about that game is, like, when you're playing it, you're like holding on. You don't want to let go. And you're like thinking, how do I be tactical with this game? And then of course the parents are standing there waiting, making sure everyone gets gets a go on the music. So they're watching, making sure, did Nick have a go? Yeah, okay. But you don't, when you're in it, you don't think of that at all. I mean, that's the same version of, but at least that's when you're very young and you are still maybe believing in other things that don't necessarily exist as well in the world. So I wanted to ask you about your podcast, though,
Sure.
because let's get onto that, because you it's funny how you say, I think I've got confidence. I love that. I think I've got confidence now. I think
That's why you laughed.
I think I've developed professional confidence. It's like, are you sure of that? Are you confident of that?
I am now. I am confident that I have professional confidence.
I recommend anyone who isn't listening to Ben's podcast, go check it out. It's awesome. And I've listened to, I have one more episode to listen to, which is your friend you just mentioned, your friend who's in comedy in Switzerland. I haven't listened to that one yet. So that's on the slate. But you've interviewed a very interesting guy over in the States. I think he's over in the States, who's written those books on narcissism.
Joe Borgo. Yeah,
yes,
he's amazing.
That's a really cool episode. Really, really cool. So
Thank you.
Definitely go check out Ben's podcast. But Ben, talk to me about that and the confidence. Talk to me about where like your journey to get to. I know you're writing a book as well, so when that comes out, we're all going to buy that. But your
all
journey
of us
to get to this point, like what? And you went to INSEAD, which is the world's best business school. Let's be honest.
It is.
Yeah, because I went there.
I don't care what the rankings say.
No, but you've obviously had a very good trajectory. You've had a successful career with EF. Talk to me about that. Like, where did Ben grow up? How did you end up on this trajectory? Because I know you've done public speaking and these sort of, and you did comedy way back. So, like, let's hear the journey.
Yeah. The journey to what?
To get to here with the confidence. Like, talk about how did you end up being the guy that's now thinking he's got the professional confidence and has a podcast on confidence. And even in your podcast, you're like, I'm pretty nervous about this. I'm like, I love it.
Yeah, because I also thought, like, when I so just quickly on that point that you just mentioned, when it became clear that, okay, this is the topic that I want to talk about, then all of a sudden I was like, oh, well, then that's fine, because I can talk about my own insecurities, especially, I was trying to put, there you go. My goal was to position myself in public speaking, motivational speaking, etc. And usually you get people who are, first we've had professional athletes at EF, gold medalists, or if it's people who have accomplished quite a lot in business, people from like the Shark Tank shows, or multimillionaires, and I'm like, who am I compared to this guy? Like, what do I have to offer? I mean, I know what I can offer, but like, what's the credibility that I have? And then when I thought about confidence as a topic that ties in quite a lot of things that I want to talk about, then I was like, this is perfect because I'm also experiencing my own insecurity with branding myself as a speaker, and then so I can talk about that journey as well. So, but the journey, without going into the root causes, because this would be a psychology episode. But let's have a starting point where let's say I am plagued with lack of self-confidence, and it's something that is very deep and rooted in me. So I guess I had the opposite experience than Harry had. And I would say that that's where I started from. In a way, the dream of doing comedy was maybe like an illusion in my mind that it would help me like get a better life, like maybe it would be like a crutch of confidence, or because actually the dream of being in front of people and making them laugh was, what I wasn't really imagining the jokes that I would say, but I would imagine people laughing and being like, oh, we love Ben, like so I kind of started to imagine that, this would be like a way to, to get people to like me, but in the end, it's bullshit, because it's like it's got to come from another place.
Yeah, absolutely.
But anyway, so that was kind of like the why I started to dream about it. But man, I was just so bad, like, and not just comedy, but I was just bad at public speaking. I was bad at speaking in front of people. I was very introverted. Like, if you had met me when I was 15, 16, 17, 18, up until, maybe until 25, you wouldn't have recognized me today. Like, eventually I would when I would be with my friends, then I would get comfortable, and like I'd be able to shine and break through this. But I really had like the look from other people. It was something that really stressed me, and it was, I saw it when I was doing job interviews, or when I was doing like admission interviews for universities, because they're quite a big thing in France. There's a big ritual around that, and I would be so bad speaking in front of an audience. I'd be bad, But same with selling, like I kind of thought. Okay, so maybe let me backtrack a bit. So, but I had these aspirations to do something in media and communication and show business, etc. So I went to Emerson College in Boston, and there I was actually a film and writing student. But I kind of noticed that my favorite writers were the ones that were in touch with the stage, because I don't know, I kind of thought like maybe there's an immediacy where you can write something and then you get the feedback, and then maybe you can improve it, etc. And like and I just found like even film writers who had gone through the stage before were just better. So I started to be like, okay, I've got to find a way to do stage, and then stand-up comedy is super easy. You just sign up for an open mic, and there you go, you're on stage. So. And so first gig was, so it was kind of weird, because first gig I start into like 3 minutes of almost silence, and there's one guy at the back who's laughing. He's my friend, so he's laughing at my joke.
He's probably already heard your set.
No.
Oh, that's good.
And he was like but he kind of carried me through, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I get an applause break. So I was like, all right, I guess this went pretty well. And then, so then the second gig, I start to feel more, confident. And then I don't have 3 minutes of silence. I have maybe like a minute of silence, and then it goes well. And then third gig, even better. And then the fourth gig, I was like invited to perform for the international students of Emerson College in Boston, so like I go nail it for 7 minutes. So then I've started to think, well, maybe maybe I'm the next genius of comedy. And then the moment you think that,
Ouch.
the reality is like, oh, all right.
It's such a minefield, isn't it? Because you've got to put yourself out there. Usually the best jokes, it's the twist, right? And you've got to make that work. And usually it's against yourself or it's against some adversity. But like if you're not prepared to laugh at yourself and find every fault with yourself, then you're never going to win in comedy. If you're not fully aware of where your flaws are, then you're never going to be able to get anywhere. And that is such a crutch, I think, for so many comedians. And then of course when you get into the rhythm, and you find that rhythm and you find that flow and you know what hits and what doesn't hit. I find it for me, it was just fascinating experience. I didn't actually I got laughs. I was quite lucky actually. So I was doing it in Hong Kong and I got laughs pretty much every time I went. Most of the jokes, like not every joke I hit, but like I got quite good laughs. But the thing was, I didn't feel that thing that a lot of comedians talk about. It was like rush of adrenaline, or like, oh, I've got people laughing. It was like I was just like, I was standing on stage because I'm very comfortable talking on stage. I just wasn't comfortable with the concept of trying to make people laugh while I was talking.
Right. Yeah.
So I was standing there and I was just looking out thinking, this is so interesting an experience to challenge yourself to continue as well, and to find your feet again once you've said that joke and you're like, that is really funny. Why the hell are they not laughing right now? Like, that I know that's funny because I've said it to myself and I've laughed about it while I was lying in bed, and that is just funny shit. And that happened to me or whatever, and then no one's laughing. You're like, and I found myself trying to work that out while still going with my set. Like I'm standing there going like, why didn't that happen? And you've got to kind of get over it and move on. So I absolutely love comedy for that as well, and stand-up open mics. I think it's such a brilliant learning experience for yourself. Yeah. And just back to what you were saying as well, like when you said you if you saw yourself when you were a teenager or even up to 25, you'd be a different person. I think it's so interesting how much you learn as you get older, and that self-confidence, and this is what I wanted to kind of get back to, is your talk on confidence. I don't know about you, but I feel like the older I get, the more I realize how much you learn over time. But that makes me more and more aware of how much I don't know and how much, wisdom that the older people have. And therefore, I get more confidence with age because I'm learning about myself and I'm learning how to settle in, and I'm happy in my own body. I'm happy with my own faults and things. But I realize how much I don't know. So I also struggle with that.
But some people are not like, and some people never really get there. Like, how much you learn and everything, you also have to be open to your own growth, And some people are not open to that. And I guess when I started out in stand-up, so I came back to France after my studies in the US, and then I did 3 years of stand-up in Paris. And I definitely, now I know I have the terms for it. I had a fixed mindset. Did you read that book?
Yes.
It's such this book. It's brilliant.
Growth mindset, right?
Growth mindset.
Yeah.
So
Rachel,
and I had a
Rachel something. I can't remember.
Dweck. Yeah. I had Carol Dweck.
Carol Dweck. That's not Rachel. Yeah.
I had but a severe case of fixed mindset. So so I was shaking in my boots because every performance. Imagine that if it didn't go right, it would mean that it is in my deep nature that I cannot be a comedian. Like that I do not have the talent, and and I would suffer from it so much, and it was it was horrible, and it kind of and at some point I gave up. I was like, I don't think I have it. I don't think it is in my nature, because I was looking for the signs that it was my nature that I could be like a good comedian. And very severe fixed mindset. Then then I went on and went into the world of business, and then I went to to our dear business school INSEAD, where I first met you. Actually, you were at the career fair, like one of the representatives, selling me the dream, selling me the company. But so and the funny thing is, so EF was interested in me, but they made a mistake. They treated me like I was graduating in December, but in fact I was graduating in July. So I was at the career fair where we met, and I was only like 2 months in my MBA program. And 2 days after that, I got a job offer, or maybe not 2 days, but like very shortly after that, like I had a job offer from EF. But I felt like I had just started INSEAD, and so I didn't know. I was like, I don't know, like I don't know that I want to go for EF, etc. And then and I pushed it so much to like, oh, but wait, let me decide and everything, that Eva Kokum withdrew the offer for me.
For those that don't know, she's the big boss of
yes. So she's the one. So she's the first person I met, and I had no idea, who she was. And but then it was better this way. So I wasn't so intimidated. I was better able to be myself. And she was like, we need decisive people. He's not decisive enough. And the company withdrew the offer, before the deadline. Like when you recruit at INSEAD, you're supposed to, like every MBA, you're supposed to have the offer hold until a certain date. And for my promotion, it was much later. And anyway, I was trying to hold it until then, but I also understand that it didn't look good if somebody was waiting 5 months to say yes or no to a job. So anyway, so then, and then the recruiting process didn't go super well, like at INSEAD for me. So I graduated from INSEAD without a job to go to. And Nick, this was the lowest point of my, mental state. In a way, brought a lot of things for me and I think are going to be relevant for your podcast. But it was horrible. Like, and because at the same time, like I also started INSEAD with somebody that I thought, okay, this is the person I'm going to get married to. And then the MBA experience is really good at like knocking your bullshit. So that relationship failed, and then and I failed, and then I was in debt for 60,000 euro, and I was back on my mother's couch. Where when you start INSEAD, you think that's it, you've made it. You're gonna get a call from the Illuminati, and then you're gonna rule the world.
Exactly, CEO, please.
But not at all. And you do all these business cases, like in the classroom. No, you are the CEO of Coca-Cola, and like, what would you do? Like, so you just fucking imagine yourself as some hotshot. You take all these decisions, and then. Like total inflation of your ego, and then reality comes in. And so and it was crazy. Like I remember, I was in such a point of failure in my life that I was like, I don't know how to get out of it. And my brain, so it wasn't even me like actively doing that, my brain started to offer me solutions. And the solutions where my brain was starting to come up with 4 or 5 different ways to kill myself. And so, like, it was so weird. Like, you remember we were doing a lot of driving in Fontainebleau, right? And there was this big road and lots of lorries and trucks coming through. And then, and I was just driving, and it'd be like, well, if you just swerve to the left, it's over. And stuff that it was just so not me, because even if I was plagued with a lot of self-confidence, like, I still I still try to be jovial and everything, and I could not understand what the hell was going on. Like, and then it was super weird because I tried to speak about it to like psychology services of INSEAD. And so first I was just not about this particularly, but that one day I hint at it, and I saw her reaction, and I was just like, fuck, if I continue talking about this, she's gonna like have me committed to a hospital, and I don't want that. I don't want to go to a hospital. And so like it was incredibly lonely, and like so it was kind of weird because it was one of the best years of my life, but also like, what the hell? Like, what the hell is happening? And this continued after INSEAD, so it was even worse, because at INSEAD, like, couldn't get a job, and I could see the relationship was ending with this girl. But then after that, it was worse. I was out of a relationship, and I was out of a job and deeply in debt. And there was one evening when I really deeply thought about, okay, like, this is like, I'm gonna do it. I don't know if I would have. I didn't do it. I didn't even try in the end. But I was just like, it was just so real in my head that this was like the next step, and I kind of collapsed. And I kind of, because I'm such a pussy, like I was Googling ways to do it without, like, you wouldn't feel anything. And then thank God, like, there's a guy who wrote like this big article about, okay, like, when you click on the page, you think that you're gonna get information, and like the guy gives you like, man, okay, like, I know this is, you're going through a tough time, but and I read that and I started crying, but yeah, it was just like, so emotional breakdown. So super weird. And then I woke up the day after, and then I was like, okay, all right, I decided not to do this. So what the hell am I gonna do? And I started to first say, okay, like, what is it that I like in my life? Like, and what is it that I've always valued? And like, even if like I've been in situations where I thought, oh, why did I do that? But there was at least like, it felt conflicted, but at least it was coherent, because there were like 5 or 6 things that were very important to me. Like, and sometimes they come in conflict, so that's why like the choices are difficult. But I started to get this awareness about the things that motivate me. So that was one of the things, like, that was a very important moment in my development. And by the way, like, I don't know how the hell I came up with this process, or it just came kind of like naturally. I didn't do it from a book or whatever, but maybe because I had been like a consumer of personal development books, so probably that kind of thinking came into my head. And then I just realized I never told this story. Like,
I'm very
I know, I'm like, fuck, I'm just laying it out.
I'm feeling for you. It's a tough story to tell. It's
okay. So that was one. I told one person, who's actually, she was one of the guests in my podcast. The girl who started the safari business, and she thinks I need to talk about it. But now I've said it now in a public. I've said it publicly. This is the first time. You can
still take it down if you want, as I said.
No, it's fine. And then the second thing that I did is that I started to experiment with stuff, right? So, I started to do this like 30-day trials of things. And then because at the time in my head I was the biggest loser that existed on earth, because this is how I felt. I was a loser. I was the opposite of your podcast. Win. I was lose building, and
you were lose building.
But at the end of the day, I also think that it's all about feeling and mindset, but this is the big change.
What do you define your win? What do you define your loss?
Yeah,
That's the big
exactly.
thing, yeah.
So what I did was like, okay, I'm tired of feeling like a loser, every day. So I'm gonna do things from now on that I am 100% sure I'm going to succeed. And I went radical about it. So that means that didn't mean that I stopped looking for a job, right? So I was like, I still need a job because I need to move out of my mother's place and I have 60,000 euros to reimburse, one way or another.
Yeah.
But I thought, okay, like, I would wake up every morning thinking, I don't have a job. I need a job, And I was like, fuck this. Now I'm going to do things I'm 100% sure to succeed. So, I guess, so let's start with, the strategy to get a job is, you can network or you send out cover letters, right? So I was like, okay, so I'm going to write a cover letter. But even so, it was like, okay, do I need to write a cover letter that I'm happy with? And I'm like, no, because I am not 100% sure I'm going to succeed that, especially when you're depressed and feeling like I was. You're never happy with what you're doing. So I was like, so what's the success factor? Well, this cover letter will be 3 paragraphs long. That was the only thing. And then I also had to, like, okay, and then it's been years that I haven't written anything. I miss it. So today I'm going to write 50 words. Okay. So this is what I put on my to-do list for that day. That I kind of, it was kind of like the day after. Man, I cannot tell you, like, all of a sudden there were 2 things that I had won. Like, I succeeded. And I remember I wanted to see with this trial if success breeds success. Mm. So then I'm like emboldened. So the day after I go and I like, okay, well, maybe I can try 100 words, because if I face it, 50 wasn't so, wasn't so difficult. And then I'm going to do two cover letters. And then also, my best friend's getting married. I'm one of the, I have to give a speech. So what can I do? Like, that is, well, I'm just going to sit down and write for 20 minutes about him, and these were my only success factors. And I'm 100% sure to succeed it. Right. And I was radical also about the number of items I would put on my list. Like, so especially in the beginning, I'm like, I'm not going to cram my list with, I'm just going to, like, let's start with 3 and 4, and then I ended up working like an hour a day. So I was like, okay, maybe I can step it up. But this is like, and this is what turned my life around. And this is what I have used in every single professional challenge I have had after that. And it turned my life, because then all of a sudden, like, first I was feeling better, like, yes, I didn't have a job, but I was, I guess that's what I was talking in that podcast with Joe, right? Like, so he explained it really well. He said, I was showing up for myself. Exactly. And I started to have like a, a good, like, it kind of started to build my own esteem, but also, like, this is where I kind of rebuild this identity of a winner. And then the crazy thing is, like, so then when you start to have this identity about yourself, then the things that you don't control, that you're not 100% sure to succeed anymore, then it starts to fall into place without, it's in a way that, I guess, I don't know, the world around you is reacting to, all right, he's showing up, he's doing his part, okay, let's, like, all of a sudden you're part of the symphony, and then you start getting, like, if you're in business, you start getting client, or for me, my case was I started getting interviews. And it was crazy, because I wrote maybe in 2 weeks more cover letters than I wrote in a whole year at INSEAD, because I didn't care anymore, like, it had to be perfect, and like, nobody will ever, like, I was so, during INSEAD, I had such a lack of self-confidence that it would be excruciating to write cover letters, because I thought, like, how can I influence people to think these things about me, and like I was not good enough for anyone. But then I didn't, I was just like, well, screw it, like 3 paragraphs, I can do this. But then, like, and then I started to be more inspired for my letters, because like all of a sudden the pressure was not there anymore. And and I think I just wrote better things, and then I also challenged myself to, all right, call this person. And actually, so one of my tasks one day was just like, write to Eva, and say, because one of the things that I remember was that I actually enjoyed talking to everybody from EF that I talked to. And I was like, oh, it's such a shame that we had this problem with the deadline, and like the misunderstanding with what promotion I was, because this was really like the people that I felt the most comfortable with. And actually, I told her very honestly that I said, like, so I did my tasks, and then so all of a sudden I have like 4 interviews. And then even for the interviews, I did like the same tactic, so I would like, all right, I only 100% success actions when I go to this interview. So number 1, show up. Like that, I thought I was pretty sure, it was 99% that I could show up. And then, but more than that, I was like, okay, like I want to say this 3 points about myself, and I want to ask this one question. Okay, that was my success factor. And I was like, if I do this, I have succeeded. And I remember, so every interview I went to, including the one that I had with at the time was Malika and Olivier from France, who were heading the programs in France. I went with my notepad, and I had little boxes on the second page, and I didn't say it. And like throughout the interviews, I was checking boxes, and I was just feeling ka-ching. But because I was feeling good, I was just so much better. And like, then comes 3 job offers, and and I was just like, it was such a turnaround. And then so this technique I've used when of course I joined in the worst time possible, 2008, and I've used this technique to pick up the team, as like, okay, the team was starting to feel depressed, and it's like, okay, well, let's focus on the things that we can do, like. And I remember it was crazy. I just gave them a challenge to like send out quotes, because when they are in the loser mentality, and at the time we didn't have automated system for quotes, and it was actually the most painful process of the selling relationship. So I was like, okay, let's give them an incentive. Like, I know that they're 100% sure to succeed, right? So all of a sudden they sent all these quotes, and then they were getting customers, and like to complete turnaround, like the only team that grew that year worldwide and in France. Like, so it was really, I've used this, in leadership situations where, when I've had to deal with academic programs, and I'm like, okay, like there's I'm evaluated by the performance of 3,000 teachers. Like, how on earth do I have any action on this? So I was just like, okay, what are the things that are 100% under my control, but also that I can succeed,
Yeah.
So, and then focus on that. And then recently, actually, in the craziness, I was like, okay, let's focus on that. And then and it got me through it, So like, and I guess with comedy, so sorry, and I'm just gonna use comedy to wrap this little story or journey.
I love it.
When I started comedy again when I was 37. There I had a few weapons up my sleeve, right? So it was the same, like just every day write X number of words without worrying if it's funny or not. Then just show up on stage. That's it. Sign up for a gig, and then put your foot on the stage, and you've succeeded. It doesn't mean that it was still painful to bomb, right?
Yeah, of course.
But I kind of started to like see like, what is my success, right? And what's my win? And then
define your wins.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, but then I would get wins, and this is when I went, and I also thought, oh, I'm 37, I'll never be a professional comedian, it's too late. So and that took that pressure off as well, you know. So I was just really focused on the art of it and the joke and like and really finding, you know, what's funny. And I've achieved a lot more this time around than I did the first time when I was young and, you know, full of energy. And because, you know, until then, now I have a growth mindset. I'm able to let go of things that I don't control and really just focus on 100% on what I can succeed and what's my win, and really trusting that this brings bigger wins from the world, you know, like, and sometimes win that you had imagined, but sometimes not, you know. Sometimes you have wins because you were showing up and doing your thing that are coming your way. Like, for example, like this corporate clients for the online comedy show. I didn't set out to be like, okay, I'm going to make an online comedy show product that is going to be so good that company is going to pay for it. No, it's part of the journey that I just want to get better at comedy and like, okay, all right, we can do it live. So I want to grow my skills online, etc. And then, you know, all of it, like, and then the side wind came, and it was really beautiful. And that's, you know, that's kind of like my philosophy with winning, is that especially when you feel like you're losing, for me, the way to get out of it and what's got me out of it every single time is like, well, you know, just put take a piece of paper and write. You know, so for many years I call them 100% success actions. Since today, actually, because I was writing some copy for like a landing page for marketing. Because the story that I've told you, like, I'm still unsure about the whole suicidal things, but definitely like what's around, like feeling like a loser after school and everything. Like, I've given this speech before, and this is like the keynote speech I want to give on the topic of confidence. And now, so since today, I've started to call them infallible tasks, infallible tasks. So, you know, tasks at which you cannot fail. And like, you just do this, you know, like and this is how you create the winning in your life. And then, man, there's a study which I say in my speech that, you know, they've experimented, like they've proven scientifically that success brings success. Yeah. Okay, so they took, like, you know, teams that were working on all sorts of projects, and then they randomly selected a few teams and they gave them early success randomly. Like, so if that team was about, you know, getting more followers, they just make fake followers for them. Or, you know, to buy something, they just bought, you know, the teams that were chosen randomly performed better than the other ones because they experienced success, even if it was not real success.
Well, funny you should say that. I used to say fake it till you make it, but it's a double-edged sword, that statement, because it's dangerous. But I think the reality is confidence, and what you talk about, you know, if you have confidence, and you can see it all over the place. You can see it in great salespeople, in great charmers, like great charismatic leaders and things. That confidence just inspires energy around people that then moves things forward. And I talked about it in my last podcast, actually, about the you know, the positive growth mindset, but positive attitude as well. And I think, you know, I'm so honored you shared that story with me, Benjamin. And I have to say, you know, I think I can relate, so maybe that's a podcast for you. But I also know a good friend who came out of INSEAD with some very strong mental health issues as well, who I'm not going to name because it's not my place to. Of course. But yeah. It's tough, and I think what's really interesting is it's so tough to feel, you said it yourself, lonely. You feel in those desperate moments, you feel so lonely because you feel like, oh my God, I'm such a freaking loser here. I've achieving nothing. I'm worthless. It's pointless. And I've been there myself. And I think just in case, and I really want to say this, and this is a bit left field, but just in case there's anyone out there listening right now who is in a moment like that, because there have been some really rough moments in the last year and a bit for so many people. But just in case there's anyone out there, please talk to me. You don't have to do it on the bloody podcast in front of everyone. Talk to me, or talk to a friend, talk to someone, okay? Because it's so important. And I'm so glad, Benjamin, that you found that guy online. That you read that thing and it changed things for you. For me, it was a group of friends that turned things around for me. And I think your point as well about setting targets that are definitely achievable. When I wasn't suicidal, but when I lost my job last year after the COVID thing here, and I was in Hong Kong, and it was like, oh my God, we're in such deep shit right now. Like we're in Hong Kong, we're in an extremely expensive place to live, and we can't really afford to live here without salary. And my wife didn't have a job at the time, so we were stuck big time, and we'd spent most of our savings as well. So of course it was like, okay, what can we do? What can I control here? And I knew mentally one of the things I could control is my own fitness. I've always felt like that. Fitness for me has always been such a huge, what you call it, like rock in my life. Like it's something
I haven't got there yet.
Well, if I'm fit and have a good engine, I call it my engine. If I have a good engine that's running well, then that helps up here so much for me, and I do think it's good for everyone, and I encourage everyone to get healthy, but I know for me in particular it's a huge necessity. So I immediately, as soon as I lost my job, as soon as I knew I was losing my job, I was like, right, an hour every day at lunchtime now. I'm going to take an hour lunch break, which I could never normally take before because, I was so busy and things. But I was like, well, they fired me now and they're making me work out my notice. I'm going to do my best, but I'm also going to get fit. So hour every lunchtime in the Hong Kong heat. And I was crushing fitness goals and, I like making sure I was keeping fit and also then taking on things that I knew I could control. And I think similar to your point of like infallible task, it's like things that you can control, that you've got control of, that you can take ownership of and win or achieve. And I think that is so important, because setting yourself those goals and then, like you said, ticking them off in the box, it gives you that confidence that I'm getting somewhere, I'm taking steps forward. And
there's a lot of happiness in that, like more than actually there's more happiness in the daily practice of these things than actually crossing a finish line, I find. I was extremely proud to have landed this client, but it doesn't feel as, I don't know, the pleasure that I have just working on my comedy, meeting with my friends, working on skits, like that. This is where for me like the pleasure is. And this talk on confidence, I used to call it goals are the worst.
Really? That's interesting.
Because I do, I just think that it's good to have goals, but like I just think if it's takes somebody to the point of depression like it did for me and having me have these thoughts, like is it really worth it to have goals? And I think it's good to have things that you want to move towards, or it's really weird, Nick. Like I'm very conflicted with this because, like, for example, when I started to do comedy again, so I know that I want to improve at comedy, and I know that I want to get better and everything. Now, did I set myself a goal to be on Netflix or have this, or not really. Like I wanted to. I just wanted to be good at it, Actually, okay, it's half true. Like I had this goal that I wanted to have like a really good 60-minute. Yeah, I guess I had some goals. But I mean,
I was about to say, I'm like, it sounds a lot like goals to me.
Okay.
Like. It sounds like goals.
No, maybe it sounds like goals, but like I tell you, one of the reasons why I had this character, Antoine Robin, the French demotivational speaker, is because I have never felt so more stressed and hyper and anxious after like a Tony Robbins motivational video.
Oh, really?
or because this idea that, okay, like, so all right, like how can your dream be 30x, like how can you make 3 million with your passion? And it's just like, just relax, like just I don't know, like just find the things that you like, and practice that every day, and then slowly it builds into something amazing that maybe you hadn't thought about.
I love that, and I think it's so important to say that, especially young people of today, or millennials even. Sorry, millennials, I know you're not considering yourselves young, but you are to us. But there's this whole thing of like, you can be whatever you want to be, you can do whatever you want to do. It's like, I love the concept of that. I embrace that. That's a great concept, but I don't believe it actually, because I'm like, you can't necessarily, I can't go and beat Usain Bolt in 100 meters. I can't, do some of the incredible things that people are doing at the top of various games. Even
No, but
with training, even with
yeah.
the all the best things put in front of me, and the reality is that runs for other things as well. You can't necessarily get into the top C suite of Goldman Sachs or something. It's just not achievable for some people, and that's okay. And I think the important thing linked to what you were saying, and the reason, being a coach, I would defend goals completely, is, I mean, it sounds cheesy, but SMART, right? The A of SMART goals is achievable. And are they achievable? And it links to exactly what you said. It has to be something achievable. Yes, you want stretch goals. You want to do things that, okay, they're achievable. They're a huge long shot. Okay. But then set up the other things, and that's what, when you set up sales goals, for example, you usually have, goal 1, goal 2, goal 3, and then vision or something like that. And, usually sales goal 2 is the one that you kind of like, okay, I really hope we're going to achieve that, right? Sales goal 1 should definitely be achievable, and vision is like, okay, if the team are going crazy, then that's where they're headed. But you set those up with that stretch built into it. I think goals on a personal level, if you're setting goals for yourself which are unreasonable or unachievable in terms of your life situation as well, like, I'll give you an example. I've set myself a goal. It's a similar link to what you're saying. I'm skipping every day this year.
What is so you
Jumping
said that
rope.
before.
Jump rope.
I'm so out of touch with anything sport that I
Sorry. In the UK we call it skipping, and just about everywhere else they call it something different. So jumping over a rope. I think they call it jump rope in America. Yeah. So I'm doing, and I was like, I want to do something every day, like set myself a challenge. And have I lost you? No.
No, I'm just sorry, I was just checking something in the mic.
So I was like, what can I do every day? And I was like, skipping. I can do that every day. And I was like, but I need to be realistic here. 5 minutes. 5 minutes of every day is something I can reasonably say to my wife, I'm going outside for 5 minutes and I'm going to skip. And she can't complain about that. Not that she complains a lot, but she can't complain about 5 minutes. Because that's basically an extended toilet break. and so I've decided to do it. And I'm like, I don't know. And I'm not like putting lots of weight onto this. It's going to be like, oh my God, if I don't achieve this, it's a disaster. But I'm like, let's see how far I can go. And I started out and I'm like, I'm 14 days in now. I just did it before this podcast. And I'm like, 14 days in, I'm like, actually, this is achievable. And cool thing, I'm getting quite good at skipping. And I can see if I keep going, I'm going to get really good at skipping. So I was like, that for me was an achievable goal that I set myself. And I wanted something like what you've said that I know I can do, but I'm not going to be devastated if I don't do. I'm not going to feel like I'm a failure. I'm just going to be like, okay, this is something cool to strive for. And it gets me a bit fit. It keeps me hopping, keeps the engine running.
Cool.
So I am on board with your infallible tasks or your 100% success actions. And I'm on board with
I'm still working on the branding. I like infallible task. It came up today as I was writing, so I'm gonna try some copy to try to sell this speech virtually. So kind of like a bit the story that I told you, but more extended, and with some research.
Yeah.
'Cause people want it.
Well, let's.
But infallible task. But it's kind of funny because at the moment, what I'm learning is. So I can tell you, like, the skill of entrepreneurship, I don't feel very confident in it, or actually not really, because 12 years at EF, where the value proposition is very clear, and you never question it. You are offering people to travel abroad so that they can improve their language. It's kind of a no-brainer that it works. And so I kind of felt like I never really had to question that. And then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, I'm going out in the world as a public speaker. What's my theme? What's my value proposition? What to who? And I had already a couple of failed campaigns on LinkedIn, like trying to, advertising that didn't bring leads. And I'm like, okay, like, all right, well, what can I do? Like, and really, like, now I'm working. So for this landing page, I didn't work on paragraphs. So I work when I don't know what to set as a infallible task, I just work with this Pomodoro principle. It's like just work 25 minutes on your landing page, So I did twice 25 minutes, and then I had it. So I'm gonna try again. Like these are. Yeah, I'm just like in that, and this is where I said earlier, like I think. No, I know I've gotten professional confidence because I'm in this thing where, like, there are things that I feel confident with. I feel confident with the process of selling when I have somebody face to face. I feel confident with somebody, like with, now I feel confident in my comedic skills. I feel confident to tell a big company to say, yeah, I'll take care of your entertainment. But like entrepreneurship, I know I'm not good at it at the moment. Otherwise, I would have, sold a lot more deals. But I have this confidence that, okay, I know, okay, just keep working on, like, for example, today, keep working on your landing page, or, a few days ago, what I did is I went back to my value proposition and worked at it more, like, so spend 25 minutes on refining that, etc. And then eventually, something's gonna come out. Like there's a confidence and trust in the world that if I do my part, it will happen.
I think it will, Ben, and I wish you the very best of luck with it all. I think it's a good time to wrap it up, although you've said so many things that I wanted to jump into. But
we failed our goal to keep this under an hour.
Well, I think I love
that's a win.
I love the conversation, so I'm very, very grateful to have you here. So check Ben out on his YouTube. Check him out or you can link up with him on LinkedIn as well. And obviously,
or go to Ben Delahaye. BenDelahaye.com.
Yeah, Ben. What is it?
BenDelahaye.com. It's got everything. Links to my podcast, YouTube, everything.
I'll put the links in whatever it is you're watching here. If you're watching it on YouTube, the links will be in YouTube. If you're listening to it on the podcast, hopefully it's in the description somehow. I haven't quite worked out how that all works exactly, so hopefully it's working for you guys. Ben, thank you so much, and thank you so much for sharing your story. I wish you the very best of luck. I hope that we can continue to collaborate, because it's super fun to see where you're going, and I think you're great, and I really encourage people to check you out and book you.
Thanks, mate.
He can do things anywhere in the world now.
Thanks. It was a pleasure reconnecting with you.
All right, man. You take care. Have a nice evening.
Bye. Bye-bye.